Hello, everybody. Ryan Carpenter here with No BS Golf, presented to you by P45 Knuckle Down Golf. Well, we got the Memorial Week, sort of. Quite strange trying to understand what the PGA did here, PGA Tour that is, with Memorial Tournament not coinciding with Memorial Day weekend. I don't know, whatever, but it is what it is, and here we are. So off to the races. Small field event again. Not quite understand what's going on here, but according to them, that's not a tournament. But hey, here we are. So gonna be a fun week. Got a lot of great players, and not all, unfortunately, but that is also another thing. But leading up to the U.S. Open, this is fun. We got an exciting stretch of golf coming for sure, and we got the golf season in hand. But wanted to for sure. Don't think I had any responses anywhere. I was going to double check that. Anyways, I wanted to cover a few things because had some lessons and some players starting to advance here and move through the process, especially in the first stages. Well, it come to mind after a couple of these lessons that all players for the most part are typically going to have to eventually learn a pattern of motion. So if you think of the golf swing as like a machine, like a rotary. So like if you have spine angle, you're basically moving, around the spine, back and through. And the way that you can move around your spine on many different angles. So the exact opposite. So how the club can rotate around the spine angle, right? It can be done on all kinds of different, possible planes, which is the most common used term. But an angle or axis, and that pattern is a major part of what determines players' abilities or inabilities or errors that can be forced and manipulations to offset in order to strike the ball. And patterns are important. So pattern is huge. Well, there's lots of possible ways to go about learning, developing, and changing a pattern. And for sure, the one we see the most common is part of one of the main lessons that I give when it comes to beginning to learn pattern. The old classic. I'm not going to name names. Y'all, if you do it enough, you've seen it. You've heard it on your own. I know there's a bunch of you out there that are YouTubers. And so there's the quick fix your slice in 5-minute videos, and so there's some things that are missing to these keys. So any good instructor has given this quick fix lesson at some point in their life. Oh, you're not going to work on your swing. If I had to give you maybe one gadgety idea to hopefully, here, try this. Okay, completely reroute this club around your body in a whole whoopsie almost a Furyk-y Matthew Wolf type, kind of crazy loop around the body thing. And what happens is you're changing the pattern dramatically enough because it's such a huge loopy idea that if the player just connects with the ball one time, they're going to see a dramatically different result, which is cool and all. I mean, I'm not, it's still kind of a magic act to some degree, but it can work. The problem is what are you missing? Well, you're dynamically changing major pattern movement, which means the connectivity, if you will, the balancing of all of that and finding club face to ball and impacting and all kinds of other stuff, all has to come together to make that one thing work. And so there's other things that have to change. What if there's no weight shift? What if there's no proper rotational value in the body and the torso and the angular position and all? We could dive into a million things. The point is, in the quick fix video, you're not in front of that person. And so they're not there telling you got to keep going, keep doing it. You might miss 47 balls in a row, but on the 48th shot for you, that might be the one that actually works finally. Well, that's the same thing as the lesson. And so when you begin changing pattern, you have to coach people through this process. The big picture is, yes, take this big old sloopy loo thingy and go run after it. You got it. Have fun. Enjoy. That ain't the lesson. The lesson is, look, That's the big picture. That is the big pattern change we're ultimately working through or hoping to work through, because dynamically it's the only way we're going to change things like delivery and proper strike and proper dynamic loft at impact and compression maybe someday, if we ever get to understanding and truly developing this sense of club moving through and not at, and all these other things. And so that one pattern shift is not going to fix it. It's the beginning of a development of understanding that pattern around the body and what that pattern is like and what it feels like and how dramatically different it can be. And then with that, we begin to piece it together so that if you take 100 swings and you hit one really good, that's fine and dandy and great, congratulations, but it's not a long-lasting development. It's a one-time quick fix and then hope to God you go apply it some more and maybe it works a little bit better. And that's not likely the case, is the problem. So we start putting the details in with this. The quick fix is the big picture. And then the development for the player is taking the specific details and start to piece them together within that pattern and begin working through the details that are needed. Where's the lower body? What's the hip tilt? And is there bend? And is there shift? And is there rotation? And then is the upper body matching? And is it balanced? And is the posture within itself not changing? So that, so there's a lot of things that go along with that to make that eventually become an idea, a concept-based learning to a productive, consistent, long-term output. And that is the goal. That's what we're doing. That's what I'm doing. That's not what everyone's doing. That's what I'm working towards with my players. We're going to do things, and we're moving on the path development-wise, getting better at golf. We're working through what's necessary and the proper procedure of process is in place to start getting there. So they're learning the same thing as this basic quick fix your slice idea. But in the lesson process, I'm taking it to a different level and adding details that are needed when they're needed, and then specifically prescribing the best ways to go about this. Because the other problem is, again, you're not in front of the instructor with those videos. They're not seeing you. They can't coach you. Technically, I can't even coach my students 100% of the time. I set them up hopefully for success via the lesson process. Is why my lessons are not different. My lesson is not, we're going to schedule 30 minutes and as soon as the clock ticks, I'm out of there. That's not how it works. We're scheduling a time to meet so that we can work through and make sure that we get everything accomplished and necessary to set the player forward for the next week or 2 weeks to know exactly what to do, how to do it, what to look for, the best place to practice and develop. By the way, www.thegolfpub.com. That's why I'm utilizing this facility. I partnered with them. They have the best learning environment possible. And until you come in and take the evaluation lesson and learn from me through this process, you're never going to understand that. And that's okay. But that is an important piece of the puzzle. So, but that's the purpose of the lesson, is to set the player up with the proper expectations, what to be trying to accomplish and achieve and develop via the repetitions that eventually will become more normalized, become more automatic and not so thought driven. Change only occurs if something's been done correctly and enough times that it's not with focused thought or conscious thought. We want to shift to subconscious. Subconscious thought is you're breathing right now. Your brain is not actively having to think and say, I need to breathe. The brain has subconscious capabilities of just simply making sure that your system is doing that so that you can walk around all day. Well, in the learning and development side of this stuff, that's what we have to do as well. We have to get to the point where you develop enough repetitions and properly so that there's no trying to do. And in that scenario, that's why I want a player inside in the bays instead, with feedback. Feedback's crucial as well. So there's so many components to all of this, but that's the difference between the quick 3.5 minute guy video, YouTube, and the quick fix and then the magical beans, theory versus what's really going on. And they know it too. They're not stupid people. They know it's not going to fix you. What the purpose of it is you maybe find your way via a couple of lucky combinations and some shots and something happens, but then you get to the point where it's not consistent. And then you're chasing this magical shot all of a sudden. And you might go a month or you might go 10 months. You might go 10 years. But what the hope is that you eventually have to go figure out via their website, via the academies, via their online lessons. They all have different systems in place. And so the hope is that you come back and sign up for the real deal, the real process, the real development, the real important aspect of what's going to be necessary to actually attain that high level consistent capability of this pattern shift, this pattern change. I call it's the Barkley magical fix that Hank had. He just changed his entire process. He just, all right, forget about starting here, turning and setting and going back. We're just not even going to do that. Pick the club up, turn around here and just fling it. And he's went, wow, hell, I can do that. And all of a sudden he's swinging again. It's a bypass. It's I don't know how to say it. I bet a computer guy, pardon me, would be able to figure it out. I bet a computer guy could say, well, yeah, that's where I go in and I connect and I go around what's running so that I can get it to do it a different way without it realizing it. Well, that's kind of the same thing. This is a the neuromuscular capabilities of our system, our brains controlling our bodies, right? There's no such thing as muscle memory. There ain't no memory bank in that damn muscle sitting right there. There's no such thing. It's the brain being able to understand motion that results with outputs that we desire, and then being able to regularly and repeatedly make the system move, first on a conscious level, then on a subconscious level secondarily, so that it's automatic. And so we've got to find ways sometimes to bypass, get around what's already programmed. That pre-programming is what's the dang most difficult part about this whole thing, because everybody's got their own pre-programming already going on in there, and every player has different ways of going about reprogramming all that. That's part of the lesson process as well. It's important because as a coach, sometimes it takes, up to 5 lessons before I start to really zone in on a player and go, okay, John here, I can see like where it clicks, like when things really, I get it. I can tell. Whereas with Tim over here, it might be a whole different way of going about it. So, but ultimately, that's what we're doing. We're reprogramming a computer, literally, via the process. And that reprogramming is designed so that if it's done appropriately, that'll get us to the point where we're moving down the road and all of a sudden we have this new swing in place and output is changing and output's looking more likely what we've been talking about. And now it's getting exciting again, because then it's the lead up to all of this that's the boring part, kind of the man, okay, I got to do this work, okay. But it's when you get to that point where you start to see the end, that's when it gets really fun and exciting, because now the potential for real output is there. Now the potential for being able to apply this stuff and break through with new programming. We go to the course and we simply apply, or the range, and we don't have to think and purposely try to make something happen so much. That's the goal of long-term, lasting sustainable, and very distinct major change in how a player hits a golf ball. So it was fun to be able to have those lessons and to be able to connect the dots to what's going on in this YouTube world that we live in. And YouTube is just look, I've said it a million times, say it again. It's a great source of information to some degree. Not all of it. Some of it is flat out garbage. Some of it is BS. So be careful. Some of it's great information, but you don't know if it applies to you. You don't have a coach with you taking you through the process involved and making sure that you're working on the correct thing at the right time. Does it apply to you is still the number one question I have when somebody says YouTube this and YouTube that. Yeah, but how do you know it applies to you? Maybe that's the exact opposite thing we need you doing. One of my favorites is the releasing, whether it's a face thing or a relationship, like a overhand pass thingy or a tennis rackety thingy. And I'm like, no, wait a minute. This person's got terrible hand structure, no rotational value whatsoever, up over here in a reverse shift, flinging the club out, and you're telling me you're going to teach them how to hit an overhand? Like, that ain't going to work. First of all, if they even accomplish it, which they're not physically, they're out of position. If they somehow magically accomplish it, it's going to go so bad, they're going to want to quit golf. It ain't going to work. So, how do you know it applies to you, folks? That's an important question always to be asking. Whether you read something, whether you hear some talking head on the damn TV, let's just not even go there. That's a whole other ballgame. We won't talk about BS. Anyways, magazine, TV, YouTube, friend, whatever. It doesn't even matter. How do you know if it applies to you? It should be the first question you ask. Why are we doing this? That's a great question, John. Man, I'm so glad you just asked that question. Not very many students ask those questions. That's an important question. I tell my students, you should be questioning the hell out of me as well. Everything I say and do with you as a player, you should be saying, why? Oh, I'm glad you asked that. Let's walk through that. It's an important thing. So I'm going to leave you on that. Hopefully everybody have a good day out there. And come work on the swing, folks. www.thegolfpub.com. That is my home location now. As always, however, you can reach me in multiple different ways. Please go to the comment section. Leave me a comment. What do you want to hear? What do you want to talk about? What do you want to know? You name it. Twitter, as always, at P45KDG. Gmail or email, P45knuckledowngolf@gmail.com. Facebook, Twitter, whatever. I need input. If I can't get input from you, I can't help you. I can't give you information you need. I'll provide you the info you need in here. That's no problem. You just may not be able to go actually do what you want to do with it. That's a different story. That's where the lesson process comes into play. Right now, evals are still free. The evaluation lesson, the number one lesson, the most important lesson, the conversation, learning about you, figuring out what's going on. What do you want to be able to accomplish? What's happening that's preventing that? That lesson has to take place if you're ever going to know what your future could be. I've got another one tomorrow morning. I've got another one Saturday morning. Anyways, popping off. They're free right now, okay? That is going to change someday. So get in while you can. You've got to connect with me. You've got to tell me when you can do that and when we can get that scheduled, and then we'll get you started on the process. Committing to the process is a hard decision, but once you've done it, once you get to the other end, I've seen grown men turn into 5-year-olds on Christmas morning because of how well they're hitting the golf ball. It can happen to you too. You just got to believe, and then you got to commit. And that's the most important thing as a student. Decide. All right, folks. If you can, please, as always, subscribe. Hit that little thumb button up. That will help me a ton. Share. Comment. I need comments. Comments are important too. So come in there. Say something. I like it. I don't like it. What about this, Ryan? What about that? Wait a minute. You said this, but then I heard this, and then this heard that. That's what the comment section is there for, folks. Smash the like button, the little thumb, subscribe, comment, go to Twitter, go to Facebook, whatever. Hit me up with email. You name it. I'm here for you, folks. For now, that'll be it for today. Hope everyone's going to have a good day. And that's it with Ryan Carpenter. No BS Golf. Presented to you by P45 Knuckle Down Golf. Take care, folks.